coming back to the start of where you found me. I'm coming back to your heart. Now I surrender. Take me. This is all I can bring. Hebrews 6:4 says, "It is impossible for those who have once been enlightened, who have been tasted the heavenly gift, who have shared in the Holy Spirit, who have tasted the goodness of the word of the Lord, the powers of the age, who have fallen away, to be brought back to his repentance." You know what, you guys? Yeah, I know I'm out of breath again. And I'm super excited to be out of breath in the presence of the Lord, because you guys know what? This is God's great dance floor. We can come before him no matter what shape our heart is in, and he just wants us. So I love that this verse talks about that once we've tasted and we've seen, to come before the Lord in repentance and with joy. And that's what he desires for each and every one of us today. Amen? Amen. Why don't you just turn to your neighbor and just give him a high five this morning? Church, let's continue. Just came up this morning, church. Press into the heart of Lord, that you are. And we are just gathered here in this place to sing our praises and our thankfulness to you, God. You are so mighty and so good, and we have gathered in the name of Jesus to worship and praise. Amen. You tell mountains they must fall and they fall. You tell oceans to be still and they're calm. You tell sickness it must leave and it's gone. In my weakness, God, I know you are strong. You are the one above it all. I stand in awe. You're the God over all. I know no higher name, no greater throne. You stand alone. You're the God over all. I know. You tell broken things be healed and they're whole. You tell fear it has no place, it must go. You tell death it has no chance, it won't win. And if you are for me, God, what can come against? You are the one above it all. I stand in awe. You're the God over all. I know no higher name, no greater throne. You stand alone. You're the God over all. I know you are the one above it all. I stand in awe. You're the God over all. I know no higher name, no greater throne. You stand alone. You're the God over all. I know. Oh, I believe it. I have seen it. My God is over all. I believe it. I have seen it. My God is over all. I believe it. I have seen it. My God is over all. I believe it. I have seen it. My God is over all. My God is over all. I believe it, I receive it. My God is over all. Oh, I believe it, I receive it. My God is over all. You are over all, Lord, over all that we know. Your power and strength, Lord, is beyond what we can even fathom. And what an honor it is to be called the sons and daughters of the Most High God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for the sacrifice of your Son. Thank you for your grace and for your love. And I thank you most of all for relationship, that the King of the world would desire our heart and desire relationship with us. God, we love you so much in this place, and we sing to you how great and mighty that you are. Sing those out to this morning, church.
lift that up this morning. How great are you? How great is our God? God, that we can be failures. We can mess up time and time again. But you still show up here. You still meet us where we're at. And time again, you give us forgiveness. God, we thank you for that. We thank you for the things that you're going to do in our lives. We thank you that you're going to take crooked sticks and you're going to draw straight lines. God, that you have a plan. And God, we're going to mess it up. And you're going to forgive us. And then you're going to put us in a place where we're better than we were before. And then you're going to execute that plan. So God, we just open up this morning to what your will is. Your will be done. Your kingdom come here on earth as it is in heaven. God, we thank you for your mercy. Thank you for your grace. And all God's people said, Amen.
Yeka kokosian, oh malali ke osata, mehela ku iasoto mare de isi la kationdo kos, paharondo yihiliando, hara te bihila di diara okukusatam, harondo yihisi lehe la katios. You sang of my greatness this morning. It pleases my heart it pleases my heart to hear my children sing praises to me. But do you know who I am? Do you really know who I am? Moses asked that same question, and I said, I am all that you are and all that you need and all that ever will be. I brought the worlds into being by the breath of my mouth, and I maintain all things by the breath of my mouth. Sons and daughters, I am what you need. I am all that you need. There is nothing lacking in me, but I give it to you. I give all that I am to you, for you are my sons and my daughters, saith the Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Welcome to New Life. That's crazy. God is such a good God. It's blue. All right. Anyways, God. Hello. All right. Here we go. All right. Take two. God is such a good God. Guys, I don't know how to even explain this. I was about to come up here and I was thinking in my head when I was walking up here, God, you are great. You are great and you are mighty. And with if we were to lose everything, if everything is also stripped away, if everything else is stripped away, but we have our salvation through Jesus Christ, we have everything. That's what the Bible says. We have everything, every spiritual blessing through Jesus Christ. If everything else is stripped away, we have everything. And then for God to give that word through Bob, that same thing. That's what I think you guys really need to know today. Is if I don't know what situation you're in, if you're here, you're singing that song that how great is our God, and how great is our God. I don't know where you're at, or if you're somewhere in between. But just today, I'm positive of that. I don't know. He's amazing. But we're going to continue worshiping Him and continue to just let Him be the leader, let Him lead today. So we're going to continue in tithes and offerings, so the gatekeepers want to come forward. One thing that He's doing is for VBS, we are having a leaders meeting today after the second service. If you're interested in volunteering for VBS, or if you're interested in leading our kids ministry on Sunday mornings, come after the second service, and we'll have a meeting about that. And then just check your bulletins. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there too. But we're gonna pray for our offering. Come about with me. God, we just thank you for your goodness. God, we thank you for your presence that's here. God, that we can feel it, that we can see you here, God, just in the way your Spirit moves, God. We thank you that you're such a good God, that you're alive and you're active, and that your love for us is just overwhelming, God, and that you are a great, great God. And no matter our situations, God, that you're never changing. And we just thank you for this time that we get to just to worship you more just by giving back to you, God, what you've given to us. And that every single cent that we own is something that you've given us in the first place, God. So we freely give it back to you. We pray you just bless it and multiply it, God. And just let it expand your kingdom. Let people know you, God. More people need to know you. And we just ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amazing Grace.
How sweet the sound that saved
An alcoholic,
A depressed codependent,
a control freak,
an addicted bank robber,
a self-righteous hypocrite,
a wretch.
like me.
I once was
Prideful and selfish.
Fearful,
empty,
depending on credit cards,
guilt-ridden and unlovable,
addicted to pornography,
trapped in grief.
Lost.
But now I'm
depending on God,
sober and follow Christ,
a humble servant,
passionate about God's word,
Filled.
free in Christ,
content and secure in Christ,
forgiven and loved.
Grateful to give.
I'm bound, was,
A meth addict,
Suicidal.
ashamed,
Angry.
selfish and unreachable,
blind,
but now
I have peace.
I am filled with hope and joy in Christ. I no longer live in shame and regret.
I let God have control.
I know I am loved by Jesus and I love others.
But now I know I matter to God. I am trusting Christ's ways.
I see his love.
I see.
amazing grace.
Amen.
And ooh, there's something about the way your sun shines on my face. It's a love so true, I can never get enough of you. This feeling can't be wrong. I'm about to get my worship on. Take me away. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, it's my fault. Today is a standalone sermon that I'm going to share with you today, and I'm going to talk about some stuff. We live in a world that a lot of people live in fear. There's all kinds of fears, and how many of you don't have to raise your hand, but just think about this. I never was, but how many of you were into or are into watching scary movies? I don't like scary movies. I get afraid. I remember I was little, and my aunts and my uncles were watching me, and my mom entrusted me to my aunts and uncles, and I look back and I question her thought pattern sometimes, and they were teenagers, and I was little, and I was at the house, Grandma and Grandpa's house, and they were watching me, and we watched this movie, and this is one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. It probably, if I watched it today, it'd be corny, but it was one of those scary movies, and I vowed at that moment I'd never watch a scary movie again. And I didn't like it. I don't like to be scared. I don't like to be scared in movies and different things, because fear is real, and fear is one of those things. And if you like scary movies, knock yourself out. I don't care. But I don't like them. And because fear is everywhere. We live in a world where people are afraid of different things. And I had a situation that, as when I get ready to preach a sermon, there's always some illustrations that God puts in front of me during the week. And this week, we had registration for Jared at college, and we took him up to the University of Platteville, and we were up there for freshman registration, and where you register for classes, and they get you up there at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, they keep you hostage, they teach you until 3 o'clock. And we get there, and they're going through their spiel, and quite frankly, this is our number 4 in the situation. We've been through 4 of these. And I probably could have taken the mic and taught the classes for the parents. But what was interesting is, I'm sitting there and I'm on my phone trying not to tweet out mean things and funny things during this time. But as I'm there, what I did hear and what I did see was a lot of people who were in fear, who had a lot of fear in their lives. There was people there, moms and dads there, who were living and trembling almost in the fear of signing their child up for college and thinking that in 2 months they're going to leave them there and have to walk out the door. We've been through it a few times. We're cool with it. Bye, Jared. We'll cry. I'll cry. I will. But this reality is striking them, and the fear is striking them. Who is going to do their laundry? Who's going to tell them to go to class? And how are we going to know their grades? And how are we going to drop them off? And you're going to have this big weekend, and then they're going to live in this dorm by themselves with another person, and this person may be crazy. And who knows what's going to happen? So there's all kinds of fears that are going through these parents' minds, and they're sitting there trying to figure out life. And we're looking at this I'm looking at them going, oh, you poor people. But this is what goes through. And in the fear, it's normal. It's normal to have those fears. It's normal. It's like dropping your kid off at school for the first day of kindergarten, or at the babysitter, or whatever you're going to do. There's those fears that go through our minds. And with watching the situation, I realize that our world, there's a lot of fear about different things that families are feeling. In this situation, I watched several hundred parents who were fearful of dropping their kid off and thinking that they were going to brush their teeth in the morning. I'm serious. They were fearful that they wouldn't go to class. And who could the parent call to ask if they were going to class? And the people looked at them and said, you don't call anyone and ask them if they're going to class, because we can't tell you. Because they're 18, they're adults. And so it's the fear, and I'm sitting there going, thank you, God, for this illustration, because I was starting to get frustrated that I'm sitting here being held hostage at the University of Platteville. But people are living in fear of all kinds of different things. People live in fear of the future, what the future holds for them, or for their family, or for their spouse, or for their children, or whatever. They have a fear of the unknown, of what's going to happen. People have fear of what other people think of them. Do you ever have that, where you worry about what people think of you? We all do. We have goofy things at our house. We're like, oh great, Frank's out mowing again. Our yard needs to be mowed. Jared, get on it. We have that, what are people going to think of us? We have those fears. And we have fear of whatever. You can add in whatever you have a fear of. You name it, and there's probably a phobia for it. And I get it. I totally get it. I live in fear sometimes, in bondage to different things. I have worry and fear about all kinds of weird stuff. I look at a picture that Ashley posted on social media of a scorpion in her shower. And I'm like, you got in there, stupid? But it's like, okay, that's not for me to worry about. There's a healthy fear of the scorpion, and she understood that. But, we have all these kind of goofy fears and things that consume our minds. And some things are legit as things that we should have concern about, but we need to be a people who are walking in faith and trusting God. Because what happens is when we live in fear and we carry that fear with us, it sucks the joy and the fun out of our lives.
Amen.
If you ever go through life and you wonder why your life, you have no joy or you have no peace or you're having a tough time just in everyday task of life, I want you to ask yourself, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What is the fear that is keeping you down from the joy that God has for you? We go from walking in faith to walking in fear. And that's natural. That happens. I can wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to walk in faith today. It is going to be a great day. I'm not going to worry about anything. And it's all going to be good. And I walk in faith and I'm going along and I get to the grocery store and something happens and all of a sudden fear strikes and then your mind takes over for different things. But we need to be a people that walk in faith because fear compounds itself. Do you know what I mean by that when I say that? When we have a fear, we start worrying about other things. And then we start worrying about that. So we have two things we're worrying about, and then it just compounds itself, and it causes us to have greater fear, greater worry, and it causes us a lot of stress in our life. But I want us to know that in these times where we do have this fear, when we do have these worries, I want you to understand something. You have a defender that is protecting you.
Amen.
You have a defender in your life that is there to watch over you and to take care of you. I remember as a kid when, I'm 8 years old, living life in Mount Morris, Illinois, and I got my friends, and we're going through life, and different things are happening, and you get to the playground or the park, and you're there with your buddies, and all of a sudden the older kids are there, and they start messing with you, and start picking on you, and you start feeling intimidated by someone or another kid, and you wonder, you can live in that fear. Well, I want you to understand, as a kid, I had a brother who was 8 years older than me. And he probably doesn't know this a whole lot, but I used him a lot. If I was ever felt in fear, I would say, hey, I got a brother who's 8 years older than me, and he'll beat your face in. My brother was about the same size as me at that time. He didn't grow until after high school. But it was one of those things where I thought that I had this defender, and his name was Rick, and he was going to take care of me. And if I had anybody mess with me, I would remind them that I had a older brother that would take care of me, that he would defend me if needed. Reality was, I was 8 years old, he was 16 years old. Guess what he was doing? He was driving around looking for chicks. He didn't care about his little brother or worried about his little brother was going to get beat up. But I thought the kids did around me, so I used him as a defender with me. In our lives today, I want us to understand that we need to understand that we have a defender. It's not your 8-year-old brother, 8 years older than you brother. It's not someone, your husband. It's not your wife. It's not your dad. It's not your grandpa. It's not your kids. We have a defender. We have one that was there to protect us and help us through our fearful and tough times. Amen. And the good news is our defender actually cares about us. He actually legitimately cares about us and is standing with us at all times. So we're going to look at what Isaiah has to say about it. So I want you to turn in your Bibles, if you have them. We've got a long, long scripture today. Again, so you're going to bear with me and read with me. Isaiah 54, we're going to read verses 1 through 17. And I put them all in there, the whole chapter, because I believe there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'm not going to dwell on all of it, but I believe as we're here today, we need to look into the scripture and just see what God has to say in it. Because it's full of good stuff, and then I want you to be thinking about going back and rereading it for what God puts on your heart and in your plate today as we look through these things. So Isaiah 54, we're going to look at verses 1 through 17. So if you have it in your paper Bibles, open them up. If you have your phone, open it up. And if you don't have all those, it'll be up here over my head. So Isaiah 54, 1 through 17. If you got it, say got it, PT.
Got it, PT.
It says this: Sing, O barren woman, you who never bore a child, burst into song, shout for joy, you who were never in labor, because more are the children of the desolate woman than of her who has a husband, says the Lord. Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch your tent curtains wide. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords. Strengthen your stakes. For you will spread out to the right and to the left. Your descendants will dispossess nations and settle in their desolate cities. Do not be afraid. You will not suffer shame. Do not fear disgrace. You will not be humiliated. You will forget the shame of your youth and remember no more the reproach of your widowhood. For your Maker is your husband. The Lord Almighty is his name. The Lord, the Holy One of Israel, is your Redeemer. He is called the God of the earth. The Lord will call you back as if you were a wife deserted and distressed in spirit, a wife who married young only to be rejected, says our God. For a brief moment I abandoned you, but with deep compassion I will bring you back. In a surge of anger I hid my face from you for a moment. With an everlasting kindness I have compassion on you, says the Lord your Redeemer. To me, this is like the days of Noah, when I swore that the waters of Noah would never again cover the earth. So now I have sworn not to be angry with you and never to rebuke you again. Though the mountains may be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you. That compassion word from last week has hit us again this week. O afflicted city, lashed by storms and not comforted, I will build with stones of turquoise, your foundations with sapphires. I will make your battlements of rubies, your gates of sparkling jewels, and your walls of precious stones. All your sons will be taught by the Lord, and great will be your children's peace. In righteousness you will be established. Tyranny will be far from you. You will have nothing to fear. Terror will be far removed. It will not come near you. If anyone does attack you, it will not be by my doing. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. See, it is I who created the blacksmith, who fans the coals into flame and forges a weapon fit for its work. And it is I who created the destroyer to work havoc. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and all you will refute. Let me back up. And you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord. Here we have a great scripture with a lot of good stuff in it. So go through, reread. It's a lot of good stuff that you can take in that will pertain to you. But here we see that the people are being told many things, and one of the first things he tells them to do is to enlarge their tents, to increase the space because it's going to be needed. The people are going to be given land and cities to inhabit, and they're not to be afraid. All the stuff from their past, all the shame of the past, all their sins of the past, all the things that have brought them down, all the things that they carry on their shoulders, all the worries and fears, everything that they have, he said, don't worry about those things anymore, but be ready for expansion, be ready for growth, be ready for big things, be ready for things to change the lives of the people. So don't be stuck in your little tiny tent, make it bigger.
Amen.
Because things are going to happen.
Amen.
As we look at it, it goes on and it says, you will not be embarrassed, you will not experience shame, you will not be left alone. They were to be told they would have great compassion and grace by God. It says in verse 10, it says, though the mountains may be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace removed, says the Lord who has compassion on you. God has compassion on his people. And he was saying, no matter what you're going to go through, no matter what it looks like out in front of you, trust me and know that I have compassion on you, I have grace on you, and God is going to do amazing things in their life. The people were also told that there would be abundance in their cities, that their gates and their things, everything, jewels and rubies, and all those were illustrations of great abundance that was going to happen in their city. I had some conversations earlier this month about prosperity and about how people were talking about that, about prosperity and being prosperous and how they worry about that being taught in Scripture. I want you to understand with all truth and sincerity, God does not want you to live in a bad state.
Amen.
Not talking about Illinois. Don't move. He does not want you to be struggling. He does not want you to be having a rough time. He wants to bless you with the greatest blessings that can be given. He wants you to be blessed with abundance and joy, and abundance and peace, and abundance of walking in the Spirit, and abundance of good things that He has for you. So don't be afraid of those good things. He was going to build things out of jewels for the people. He was going to say, you're going to have great abundance. Get your tents larger because you're going to need it. There will be promised all kinds of great things that God was going to do. They were also being promised that their sons would be taught by God, and there would be peace. He goes on in verse 15, he says, if anyone does attack you, it'll not be by my doing. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. See, it is I who created the blacksmith who fans the coals into flame and forges a weapon fit for its work. And it is I who have created the destroyer to work havoc. Verse 17, no weapon formed against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is a heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord. Now, what he's saying here is this, and we don't like this because we don't want to think that there's going to be things coming against us. But what he's saying is there may be attacks. There's going to be people come after you, and they're going to slander you. They're going to lie about you. They're going to come after you physically. They're going to come after your kids. They're going to come after your spouse. They're going to come after your family and your community. They're going to come after you, come after you, come after you. But understand this. You have someone greater than them.
Amen.
You have someone that will prevent those attacks from destroying you. There will be attacks, but they will fail. There will be times when it looks like you should fear, but you need to understand that you have a defender, and that is God.
Amen.
They may have great weapons, but God is the one who created the weapons. Think about that one for a second. And he told the people very clearly this, no weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Underline that in your Bible. Underline it, highlight it, take it home, write it on your fridge, take it, put it in your kid's lunchbox when school starts back up again, because school's starting up very quickly, guys. You got 2 months, get ready. No weapon formed against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. God would be their defender. And as we look at this scripture, and as we have a lot to take away from it, I want you to understand that I believe God is telling us certain things through the scripture. He's telling us this as a church and as individuals. I believe he's telling us these things. He's telling us to expand our tents. I had a conversation with Kurt Knapp this week. We talked about this a little bit. It's neat when we have similar mindsets working on the same things. Expand your mindset that you need to expand your tents. Greater things are coming than we've ever seen before. And you go, well, Pastor Tim, things around us are nuts. Have you seen what's on the news? Have you seen what's happening? Have you seen the sin that's corrupting our world and our children and all the things that people are calling evil good and good evil? Have you seen all this stuff? You want to know what? Guess what? I see it more than I need to. But I want you to know our God is greater than all the sin that's in the world.
Amen.
And that God has a plan that's going to be better and greater than anything the world can throw at us. Nothing's going to prevail against us. And our tents need to be bigger because there's going to be repentance that's going to take place. There's going to be a time where people are like, there's got to be a better way than this. So church, get ready. Be ready to see what God is going to do. He's going to pour out his Spirit. We're going to see great things happen.
Amen.
Because we have a defender. Get ready for big things. Get ready for lives being changed. Get ready for the lost being saved. Get ready for the sick being healed. Get ready for the hurt being restored. Get ready, church, because things are going to be happening.
Amen.
It's already happening.
Amen.
Yes.
I was given a report this week. I don't know if you remember, and hopefully I can share this and not overstep my bounds, but I think I can. Do you remember a young woman that maybe you do, maybe don't, that we prayed for a couple communions ago? I think she may have been your second service, so maybe some of you missed it. Her name is Melissa, and she had cancer, and she had surgery, and they were worried, and basically the doctors were very concerned that she was going to die. Young woman with a young child. I remember vividly, Bob Friedland was doing communion, and he did a communion that was mind-blowing and awesome. And then during that communion, he had people pray, women who had been through cancer, pray for her and lay hands on her and pray for her. And they prayed for her. We got a report back this past week or last week or whatever it was that she went back to the doctor and the cancer is gone.
Amen.
Now, you go from prepare yourself for what you're going to do when you die to the cancer's not there. God is already doing this stuff, church. And we need to be ready for him to keep pouring his Spirit out upon his Spirit out. And we need to be a people who are ready to expand our tents. We need to expand our tents. We need to expand our commitment. We need to expand the way we think. We need to expand in our faith in God and what he's doing and what he will do. Because a lot of times, what do? We hear reports and we go, she's a goner. See ya. Don't we? We fall into traps of the world's just going crazy and I'm just going to huddle in my house and I'm just going to try to protect what I can protect and we'll see what happens. I want you to know that's not what God's calling us to do, church. We're called to be a light on the hill and not hide it ourselves. We're supposed to be shining bright. So shine bright, live in joy, live in peace, and do right things. Expand our faith in what God is doing and what he'll do. I also believe that God is telling us to walk out of our fear and into his joy, into his peace.
Amen.
Too often we walk in fear instead of walking in God's Holy Spirit. We need to step out of the fearful thinking and the fearful life and step into God's joy and his love. Why should we do this? Because it says, no weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. There is nothing on this planet that can come against you, church. Your defender is the God of the universe. It's not my big brother, Rick. They may try to come after you. People may try to come after you. They may try to attack you, but whatever they bring will not prevail. Those who talk smack about you, those who accuse you, who lie about you, who bring false accusations, who blaspheme God, and who talk and say things against what is good, I want you to know that you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Those who ridicule you about your faith, those who threaten you, those who belittle you, those who are the loudest, those who endorse and encourage sin, they will not harm you. God will refute them, God will defend you, and God will protect you. And God will bring you peace, and he will bring you joy. God is our defender.
Amen. Amen.
We need to walk in that confidence and that joy. 1 John 5 tells us, it says in 1 John 5:18, it says, we know that anyone born of God does not continue to sin, and the one who is born of God keeps him safe, and the evil one cannot harm him.
Amen.
The one who is born of God keeps him safe, and the evil one cannot harm him. No weapon formed against you will prosper. Nothing will prevail. There will be days when you feel like you're under attack. Anybody ever feel that way? Where you feel like you're under attack? I do. I sit in my office with my hands in my dwindling hair. And I'm like, God, what is happening? Why is there attacks? Why are things going the way I want them to go? Why am I not seeing what I want to see? Why do I have this struggle? Why are we dealing with this? And different things. But I want you to know, it says this. It says to remember that we are God's children and he defends us and nothing can harm us. He defends us and keeps us safe. When those things happen, when you're sitting there running your fingers through your hair that's dwindling away, rebuke what's coming after you because the enemy is just poking and prodding at you. Just say, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you, evil one. Tell those fears and those worries they got to go in the name of Jesus. We need to be the ones taking refuge in our God. Psalm 5:11 says this, but let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, and those who love your name may rejoice in you. Take refuge in our defender, church. Be glad and sing for joy. Rejoice in the Lord. Stop grumbling about how it looks. Be glad, sing for joy, rejoice in the Lord. And finally, as the worship team comes up, we want to look at this Psalm 118, 14 through 15. It says, "The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous," those expanded tents. "The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. It goes on, it says, "God is our strength." If you're trying to do it all on your own, you will struggle. Put your trust in God to be your strength. Let there be shouts of joy in your homes. Let there be shouts of joy in this building, and give God praise for all that he has done. Praise him for his love. Praise him for his strength. Praise him for the salvation that he has given. And praise him for the abundance that he has poured out. And praise him first and foremost for being your defender. I want you to stand with me as we get ready to close. We're going to close with worship today, but I want to pray over us as we get ready to close, as we get ready to sing our closing song together, as we think about our God as our defender. God, we come before you. We're so thankful for how good you are to us. We're thankful that you are our defender, God. We're thankful that you are the one that defends us when the enemy is throwing arrows at us. And we know that there is no weapon that's formed against us that will prosper. There is nothing, no accusations, no lying mouths that can come against us without you defending us, God. We thank you for being our defender. We thank you for loving us. We give you praise. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let's worship together.
You make a way when I cannot see. You are my strength. Though my heart is weak, you won't let go. You take my place on this battlefield. You go before. You're my sword and shield. I'm not alone. You always have my victory. It's in your hands, it's in your hands. The God of heaven is my defense. No way.
here today and you need someone to step up in your defense, if you're here and you're struggling with fear, worries, different things that are going through your minds and through your heart, we're going to pray for you as we get ready to go. So what I want us to do, I want us to close our eyes. I want us to get the best focus of Jesus that you can get in your mind's eye. And we're going to look to him as our defender. We're going to look to our God as the one who protects us and takes care of us and takes away those fears and those worries. If you're here today and you're dealing with those things and you need a defender to step in for you, I just want you to acknowledge it before God today. Just raise your hand and say, God, I need you to be my defender today. I need you to take away these worries. I need you to take away these concerns and different things that I'm dealing with. God, we just come before you as my hand is raised, God. I know that I need you to defend me as I go through life, as we go through different things. And God, I pray that as we are praying today, that those here today, God, who need you as a defense, God, that you would come to their defense today, God, that you would be their defender, that you would be their God, that you would be the one that loves them, and that you would let them know that there is no weapon that's formed against them that will be able to prevail. And God, there is no accusations that can come against them, not against your holy and chosen ones. God, we love you. We thank you for your goodness to us. God, I pray for your people that they would walk out of here in victory, knowing that you are their defender and that you fight for them. God, we love you. We thank you for being our God. We thank you for being our defender. We give you praise. We thank you. It's in Jesus' mighty name we pray. And all God's people said, amen. Give God a big hand clap, church. You ready to expand your tents, church? God bless. Have a great week.